everybody, welcome back. Today we're talking about something that might make a little bit, some of you guys a little bit uncomfortable, but it's absolutely essential for your success as an entrepreneur. So the topic, say it with your chest, right? And I'm not talking about being a jerk or over the top or anything like that. This video is all about confidence, self-promotion, and why humility can sometimes hold you back. Now, let's dive in. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the problem with humility. Again, I know what you guys are probably thinking. Isn't that a good thing? It is most of the time. But I remember when I was going through a phase where I was interviewing people over and over and over again, and I was probably doing about 30 interviews every single quarter in the corporate world. And what I kept seeing was people who were coming in, had a great resume on paper. When I would sit there and talk about them, they would give me really weak answers. They weren't excited about the things that they were doing. Maybe there were things that they downplayed, and they really did try to approach their actions and all of their successes from a really, I don't even know what word to use here. They almost tried to like undertone all the things that we're doing. And those were the people who were not getting the positions. Even if there were people who were more qualified, the people who talked about the things that they were doing, talked about them with confidence, talked about them with excitement, and were willing and able to show how even the small things that they were doing were impacting the business, were the ones who got the promotion. And we see that happen time and time again in the world of entrepreneurship as well. Just because you have the best idea, the best solution, you're able to solve the problem the best and fastest way for your customers, nobody's going to know this unless you take the time to talk about it, unless you take the time to show people what that looks like and really promote yourself. So the first thing that I want to do is remind you guys, hey, humility is great. It definitely has its place in the world. But in business, when you need to make sure that you're standing out, don't be afraid to say it with your chest, strut your stuff, and really call out the things that you're doing for your customers, for your clients, and around the world. So the next thing that I want to touch on is why that confidence and that self-promotion matter. So when you think about it, confidence is contagious and self-promotion is necessary. So anytime that you're working with somebody, whether it's a potential client, a current client, maybe a potential business partner, you want them to have that confidence in you. You want them to walk away from that meeting, from that interaction, knowing that you're the person for the job, knowing that you're the one who's going to get stuff done for them. And that only happens if you're exuding confidence. And as an entrepreneur, your business really does depend on people knowing who you are and what you can do. If they don't know who you are, you're not going to get that support that you need to grow your business. If they don't know how you can do it, you're definitely not going to get that. So make sure that you're utilizing and leaning into that confidence and self-promotion, even if it may feel a little bit awkward, it may feel a little bit new. It's a skill set just like anything else. And we've been talking last week around skill sets and what it means to really lean into those and develop them. So look at it as a skill set that you can go out there and hone and work on. So if you don't believe in yourself enough to promote what you bring to the table, why should anybody else? And one of the things that I always really held on to was this idea that nobody knows my skill sets, what I bring to the table more than me. And if I'm not willing to talk about them and be excited about them, why should I expect other people to? So, you hear people talk about things like, mentors and sponsors and people who hype you up when you're not around. If you're not willing to hype your own self up, why would other people be willing to hype you up as well? So just think about that, right? The people that you have maybe put in a good word for in the past, or you provided a recommendation for. How did you go about that, right? How did you feel about them in that moment? Were you bought into their confidence? Did you hear them self-promoting themselves? Did you hear them talking about yourself and you're like, yep, that's right. And you were able to kind of co-sign the things that they were already saying, right? So just remember, no one else is going to be excited about your skill set and who you are and what you bring to the table unless you are as well. It really does start with you. So Remember that confidence creates credibility, that credibility builds connections, and connections drive conversations. And as business owners, conversations really are the foundation of everything that we do. Whether it's in a service-based industry or a product-based industry, conversations, communicating with people are a huge part of our everyday, process. And that only happens through the confidence that we bring to the table. So I'll say it again. Confidence builds credibility, credibility builds connections, and connections drive conversations. You can't skip that first step. Confidence is the foundation of everything. And again, if it's not something that you have kind of, native in your tool belt so far, go ahead and take some time to build that, right? What does that look like? How do you gain that confidence? And it may be something like, jotting down the things that you've done well this week to really drive in your mind the confidence. Maybe it's connecting with other people and asking them, hey, what do you guys think are 2 or 3 things that I do well? But remember, it all starts with confidence. So the next thing that I want to touch base on is how do you kind of overcome this fear of self-promotion? And if that's not you, great, right? Kudos to you. Hands off. You are leaps and bounds kind of along this journey. But for a lot of people just now getting into the world of business owners, how do I self-promote? What does that look like? Is a question that I see popping up again and again and again. And I get it. Self-promotion can be awkward. Maybe you're afraid as coming across as arrogant, or you're worried about how people will think. But let me ask you, what's worse? Feeling a little bit uncomfortable because you have to promote yourself, or staying stuck because no one knows who you are or what you're capable of? So here's the thing. Self-promotion isn't about bragging. It's about sharing value. When you talk about what you do, you're not just saying, hey, look at me, look at me. You're saying, here's how I can help you. And it really is that mind shift. It's not about you, peacocking, strutting your stuff. It's you saying with your chest, here's how I can help you. Here's the offer that I have for you. Here's a way that I can solve your problem, possibly in a way that you may not have looked at it previously. You're offering solutions, expertise, and impact. And when you think about it that way, that's not arrogance, that's service. And for all of us as business owners, that's what we do, right? We provide a service to our customers, and they're not going to know what that is or how to find us if we aren't sharing that with others. So to wrap it up, I want to just share a couple of tips to help you guys say it with your chest. So let's get into some practical ways that you can start this today even. So the first thing that I would say is own your own story. Be proud of your journey, your struggles, your wins. Share them authentically and don't downplay your achievements. Your story is your superpower. And whether you want to believe it or not, everybody has a story. Everybody has some kind of journey that you're on. And you would be surprised how many people can either see yourself in that journey or want to see themselves in part of that journey. So don't be afraid to share your journey, whether that's the entire thing or maybe little bits and pieces, right? As I've been going through, I've been sharing a little bit of my journey with you guys and what it has taken for me to become a corporate escapee and a lot of the lessons that I've learned along the way. So share your journey with others to get comfortable sharing it with others. And you can start in, just maybe some of the people around you, people that are close to you, and then start working on sharing it with strangers, new people, your audience, but get used to sharing your story. The second thing that I would say is to take the time to really hone and craft your elevator pitch. Now, if you've ever been in sales, you've probably heard of the idea of an elevator pitch. Hey, pretend you're in the elevator with the buyer and you have from, the top floor to the bottom floor to get them to buy something. So it's not necessarily that. It's more so, how can you quickly and articulately share what it is that you do with others? So think about it in terms of you saying, hey, in 30 seconds or less, here's what I do, here's who I help, and here's why it matters. And practice it until it feels natural, whether that's saying it in front of the mirror, maybe that's recording yourself and listening to it back, but practice that elevator pitch and get really, really comfortable with sharing who you are, who you help, and why you do it in 30 seconds or less. The third thing around that is leverage social proof. So this may be in the form of testimonials, case studies, reviews. Let other people's words showcase your value. So you may say, hey, Shanice, I'm just starting out. I don't have a ton of social proof. It's fine. I get it. But even if you sit down with somebody and you share maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes of your value, who you are, what it is that you bring to the table, sharing part of your story even, and somebody says, oh, wow, I never even thought about that. Or, oh my goodness, I would have never, approached the problem the same way that you did. Say, hey, would you be willing to just share what it was that you took away from just our brief conversation, right? You don't have to say, okay, I've gone out and I've, gone to these 10 conferences and here are all the people who I met and things that they say. Even just these small one-on-one questions. Don't be afraid to ask for social proof. Don't be afraid to ask your friends and families and the people that you interact with who you do provide value to share a review, share, what they got out of their conversation with you. And then finally, show up consistently. You would be surprised how that consistency really just adds to the value, your, quote unquote, bragging rights, so to speak, whether it's social media, at networking events, or just in conversation. Keep putting yourself out there. The more you do it, the easier it gets. It really is, and I hate to be cliche, but it really is like a practice makes perfect kind of scenario where you just have to get used to talking about yourself, what you do, and how you help people more and more. So just be consistent with that. So here's my challenge to all of you. This week, I want you to practice saying it with your chest, whether it's posting about your business on social media, whether it's reaching out to a potential client, or simply telling a friend about what you do. Take one step forward towards becoming the person who isn't afraid to say it with their chest. Remember, no one will know who you are and what you do unless you tell them. So you've got this. Remember, confidence creates credibility. Credibility builds connections, and connections drive conversation. Keep that in mind and watch how your world starts to change. Thank you so much for joining.